Okay, I've got 7 o'clock. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. And if you'd all stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, our next item, additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda. For the public's input, we did hold a work session. We received some input from our legal on item number 14. And so we're going to likely have more of a town meeting. But for tonight, we're dropping that item off of this based upon that input.
We'll need a motion and a vote on that.
So I would move that we approve the agenda minus item number 14.
Second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded. We approve the agenda with the exception of item 14 on the short-term rental policy. All those in favor say aye.
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 And I would remind the crowd that we prefer no talking unless you're at the podium, please. Thank you. Okay, Eric.
Yeah, I was just going to mention the item 15 and also the report from David Douglas, the fire mitigation report made it in there, but for some reason I didn't make the planning commissioner item memo in there. So I will just read that and then I can include that as part of the minutes.
Okay, but we don't need to modify the agenda for that, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So moving on. We're at item number 3. Person's present. Would anyone like, did we have a sign-up sheet yet?
No sign-up sheet,
Okay.
no email signups, but if anyone wants to speak,
Yep.
please
Yeah,
get up to the podium and state your name and address, please. The microphone should be on. You should see a blue light up there.
Yep.
My name is Kathy Snow, 10963 Cottage Street. I do have copies for you. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll pass it on to him after the meeting.
Since we're not going to discuss the short-term rental, that's what I was going to discuss. So I just want to start the conversation going. Due to the time constraint, I will not talk about the email that I sent to Todd, Nate, and Becky with my concerns and complaints about VRBOs. My purpose today is to introduce the ordinance that Boulder has developed on the topic of VRBOs. It is important to me that we preserve the integrity of our residential community in Green Mountain Falls. 3 things they do not mention in their ordinance, which are concerns for us, are arrival times of renters, concentrated areas of VRBOs, and they do not mention anything about drones, which is also an issue. Short-term rentals can be beneficial to communities if they have proper guidelines. They note in the ordinance from Boulder that they have done reports and studies and have concluded that short-term rental of residential property creates adverse impacts to health, safety, and welfare of communities, including an increase in housing costs and depletion of residential housing opportunities for those seeking full-time accommodations. Boulder is also concerned about the impact on their residential and rural character, as am I for Green Mountain Falls. With this ordinance, they facilitate safe short-term rental of residential dwelling units in a way that balances the benefits and burdens on the local community, preserving existing housing stock and protecting housing affordability. They also protect the health, safety, and welfare of the public. Only one license do they allow of any type, and they may be issued to each person and any legal entities associated with that person, including trusts, corporations, estates, or associations. On page 5, section 5, licensing requirements, the applicants must meet the following, and I'll let you read those: the land use approval, the building inspection, wildfire mitigation, parking and access, which is also a concern here in Green Mountain Falls, sewage disposal, which is also a concern. Is my 3 minutes up? Oh, no. Well.
You got about another 15, 20 seconds.
Okay. Well, let's see, hit to something. Their term is only 2 years, and then you have to apply for a renewal. It's not transferable from one location to another, which has also been a problem here. And it is not transferable from person to person. And then later in the short-term dwelling and vacation rental licensing, it tells about what they delineate, and on the back, it has guidelines for renters. So I also included page A, B, C, and D in your packet, so you can see what they give to the renters.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have others? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on to our consent agenda. And trustees, is there any discussion, comment on the consent agenda items?
Well, I want to question the 4A. I've always had an issue with it being called accounts payable as far as what's provided to us. And just wanted to let you or make sure you are aware of the definition of accounts payable. It means that these are amounts due to vendors that have not been paid yet. And when we're seeing it on the agenda and enclosed in the packet, we're seeing what has been paid. So if we could change that name from accounts payable to something else that's workable.
Will do.
Thank you. And I also have one change to the minutes if it's appropriate to do at this time.
Yes.
Okay. The number 4 consent agenda. You have the full dispersals in quotations. Dispersal is throwing seeds or throwing something out. It was stated as disbursements. If we could get that changed.
Thank you. I'll review the video. Thank you.
Thank you.
If there's no other questions, comments, I'd entertain a motion.
Yeah, motion to approve the consent agenda
As modified.
as modified.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Do we approve the consent agenda as modified?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is Nick voting on the Zoom?
Nick, did you vote on that?
Yes, I did. Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, our next item is item number 5, Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments Member Outreach Presentation.
This is not Jessica. I apologize. I received the wrong information apparently. Andrew Gunning, is that correct?
You can probably deduce, yes, I'm not Jessica McMullen. My name is Andy Gunning, and I'm the Executive Director for the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments. I brought some props with me, and I might need some help holding some of these out. Okay.
This is
But thank you for the
Let
opportunity.
me share my screen.
I got it.
Like I said, my name is Andy Gunning. I'm the Executive Director for the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments. We can move on to the next slide. And I appreciate the opportunity just to give a brief update on who we are, what we do, Green Mountain Falls' role within our organization. We try to do outreach meetings to each one of our member jurisdictions. We have 16 cities, towns, and counties that are part of our organization. But we try to meet every year with our local jurisdictions, and we're here to meet any other time as well. We're just right down the road, obviously. So feel free to give us a call. Just want to give you a brief update on the 4 main programs that we work on at PPACG: aging, transportation, environmental planning, and planning around our military installations. But looking for feedback as well. If there are things that you should put on our radar that we should know about that could be part of our work program, where we could help out the town, would love to hear about those as well. So appreciate the opportunity. As it says, we're a regional organization of municipal and county governments. We're one of 14 councils of government across the state of Colorado. And basically, we're set up to deal with issues that cross jurisdictional boundaries, and especially in those 4 areas that I mentioned already. Next slide. As far as our governing structure, well, first, these are our 16 member jurisdictions, the 13 cities and towns, and our 3 counties. We cover El Paso, Park, and Teller counties, and all the cities and towns within those counties. Our governing body is made up of elected officials from the cities, towns, and counties. So it's a 20-member governing body. We have 3 from El Paso County, 3 from the city of Colorado Springs, and then 1 each from each of the other local jurisdictions. And looking forward to, I think the mayor is going to be appointed as your official rep to our PPACG board. So looking forward to that. Our current leadership, our chair of the board is Stan Vanderwerf, Commissioner Vanderwerf, and I think he represents this part of El Paso County as well. Our vice chair is Mayor Sharon Thompson with the city of Fountain, and second vice chair is Councilmember Nancy Hensham from the city of Colorado Springs. So I'm not going to go through our whole roster, but I think you've got that in our annual report that we just handed out. Next slide, please. I'm not going to dig into this, but just wanted to mention that we've got a strategic plan that our board adopted in 2018 and then did an update to that in 2020. And this really drives everything that we work on within our organization. But I should mention as well, this kind of reminds me that pretty much everything we work on across our organization, we've got a committee with appointees that come from the local jurisdictions as well, that kind of help drive and inform what it is we're working on. I know you've got Ms. Ann Esch was on the Community Advisory Committee for many years on both PPACG and the PPRTA. We've got a handful of other committees, a Technical Advisory Committee where I think Becky serves to deal with transportation issues. We've got a couple of committees that deal with aging related issues. So that really kind of drives everything that we do, and everything that goes to our board goes through our committee structure first. Next slide, please. So just going to touch on kind of a few key topics in each one of our 4 areas, starting with aging. We actually serve as what's called the Area Agency on Aging, where we provide services to our senior population. It's defined under federal law as 60 and over. So a lot of us are there and we don't feel like we should be there yet, but that's the kind of the dividing line, if you will. And the main mission of our AAA is to help seniors remain in their homes and in their communities as long as possible. That helps improve their quality of life. Next slide. Just real briefly, we provide a handful of services within our organization, and we also contract out with usually about 24 or so organizations across the region to provide direct services as well. And those agencies that we contract with include entities like Silver Key and the Teller Senior Coalition up further up the mountain, and Vita, who provides transportation services for seniors, and a whole host of others that provide different supports for our senior community. And then these are the items that we provide Within our organization, we provide a lot of information and assistance, and that's evident by what we have in what's called our yellow book, which is a pretty comprehensive compendium of all the different services available to seniors across the region. And I only found 3 copies of this, but I have thousands back in our office, so I can get more to you. And maybe tomorrow if you're at our board meeting. Super. And I'm not going to go through all of this in great detail, but a lot of classes on Medicare, Social Security, retirement, and so forth. We also provide a couple that I want to emphasize here, what's called a family caregiver support center. A lot of us are trying to provide support to a senior family member, and we're not trained in that at all. So we have a couple of counselors that deal with family caregiver needs for people that are providing care either in home or within their neighborhood or in whatever environment that might be, where they're caring for a senior in the community somewhere. So we connect them with services, respite care, and a whole host of other needs. And I'll mention also, I know you don't have long-term care facilities within Greenmount Falls, but I'm sure you've got family members and others that you know that are in long-term care facilities. We've got an ombudsman program that helps with seniors that are in care facilities and kind of deal with conflicts that come up within those environments. And it could be anything as light as the coffee's too cold and we're having chicken again for dinner to serious abuse that occurs within some care centers and everything in between. And that's really become a much more of an issue, obviously going through the pandemic the past 2 years. Next slide, please. Wrapping up on aging related stuff, we've a couple of main priorities for this year. We're really focusing on pandemic support. We learned a lot going through the past 2 years, obviously with our senior community and having to deal with COVID and various lockdowns and so forth. And really found that it really highlighted some of the acute challenges that our senior community is dealing with. Things like social isolation, the basic access to some basic needs like food and medical care and access to transportation and access to affordable housing. The pandemic really highlighted the acute challenges in those areas. So we did get some ARPA funding and some other federal funding to help try to address or fix some of those issues long-term. So we're really digging into that right now and really looking at a couple of the different options that are listed here as well. Senior affordable housing has come up as a major topic of ours. It was kind of a hot topic through the legislative session, and we had a couple of bills that we were tracking that unfortunately didn't get to the finish line. But we're going to dust those off and pick them up again next year. One of them is really relevant, I think, to all of us across the state, really, is a senior homestead tax exemption for seniors. Right now, you have to live in your home for 10 years to qualify for the tax exemption, but then it's not portable. So if a senior is living at a higher elevation, for instance, wants to move to a lower elevation or just downsize to a smaller home, they can't take that property tax exemption with them. So we're trying to fix that with our legislative delegation. And a couple of other transportation needs and long-term care needs that I've kind of referenced already. Shifting gears, and I'll be fairly brief with environmental quality related things, but our environmental planning program is really focused on 2 main areas: water quality planning across the entire 3-county region and air quality planning, more within what I'm going to call the urbanized area within El Paso County, but also goes up to Woodland Park. So it includes Green Mountain Falls as well. And actually, if we can skip to the next slide, may have some more details on this, but really the first bullet here that I wanted to really emphasize, this has become a major topic of ours with our board and within our organization. We're not currently, past couple of years, not meeting federal ozone standards for air quality, and that's a real concern. The Denver metro area and up into Weld and Larimer counties, they're in what's called non-attainment for EPA, and we don't want to end up there as a region. So we're trying to do what we can to stay within attainment of the federal EPA standards. If we end up in what's called non-attainment, it could cost literally billions of dollars to the region, where it impacts investment in business opportunities, impacts the need to do vehicle emissions testing, and a whole host of other things. So we're really trying to avoid that. I'm not going to dig into the details there. It's important to address this from a public health standpoint, obviously first and foremost, but also has significant impacts to the region and especially the economy if we end up in non-attainment. So much more I could share on that if you're interested. Next slide. Military planning, and I'll be fairly brief with this as well. We run a planning program where we try to protect our military installations. We want to make sure that we're not making bad decisions on the community side that impact our 5 main installations. They comprise roughly 40% of our regional economy. So we're just trying to make sure that we're good neighbors on the community side, and deal with a whole host of different issues related to land use and development and transportation, and other needs as well. I think the next slide may show just a couple of specific things we're working on, which actually, I should really emphasize this, the first bullet is really kind of a new emphasis area of ours within our military planning program, and that deals with wildfire mitigation. We're trying to do some more coordination on a regional scale around our mitigation needs, more upstream, so we can get ahead of it a little bit more. Ideally try to go after grant funds that are out there at the state and the federal level, and just really try to map out what's been mitigated, what hasn't been, but is a threat, especially to our military communities, but helps us overall throughout the regional community as well. So just wanted to emphasize that. Next slide. Then our final program is transportation planning. And admittedly, it's focused mostly within, again, the urbanized area, but Green Mountain Falls is part of our urbanized footprint. That's a federal and state designation. And I think next slide, I may have a map that shows that. I do. Yeah, the upper right-hand corner, the green shaded area shows what our urbanized area is for transportation planning purposes. And that's meaningful because that's where we really focus on having to work with our local jurisdictions to see what our long-term needs are going to be, and then how we're going to move around our community in, say, the years 2040, 2050, and so forth. Next slide. I think we may talk about a few projects there. The third bullet down is kind of a big focus area for right now. We're about to update our long-range transportation plan that goes out to the year 2050. So we've got to look at our population forecast. That's 2050 has sort of become the magic year when we're going to hit 1 million as far as population in El Paso County. Depending on how you feel about it, it's going to bring extraordinary opportunities, but we're trying to figure out how to manage that as well from a congestion standpoint. So we have to follow state and federal requirements to see where we're going to live and where we're going to work, spread out across the region in the year 2050, and how we're going to move around without causing too much undue congestion. We want to make sure we're providing good multimodal options as well, and also ideally make sure that we're not in violation of our air quality standards. Not going to go down this rabbit hole, but the note about greenhouse gas emissions has become a really big deal. We're actually going to have a long conversation about it at our board meeting tomorrow morning. This is a new state requirement where we have to reduce carbon emissions within the transportation sector as well. And I think our posture has been that we have no problem doing that. We realize that transportation is a key part of emitting carbon, and we've got to reduce that. But we have some serious concerns about the way CDOT has approached that and how they're requiring our urbanized areas to really address that in the future. Really concerns around it being more of a modeling exercise, and really not sure that it's actually going to show real reductions in emissions. We just have to go through a lot of analytical exercises that we don't think are really going to work, but much more to come on that later. And I'll mention just one thing real quick, federal infrastructure bill coordination. Just want to mention that we're getting really good support from the state, from DOLA and OEDIT, the Economic Development Office at the state, to push money down to regional planning agencies like ours to help local communities to go after federal grants that are part of the federal infrastructure bill that was signed last year. So it's a really good opportunity. Becky was in a meeting where we talked about that last week. So a lot more to come on that, but kudos to DOLA and OEDIT for helping us out there to be able to hire a grant navigator, an advocate that can work with local communities to really dig into what are some of the opportunities that we can go after for transportation improvements. I think it has wildfire mitigation funding associated with it. There is money on a grant competitive basis for water and wastewater improvements, and a whole host of other opportunities there as well. Next slide. Not going to spend much time on this, but we also administer the PPRTA. You guys have been longstanding original members of the PPRTA, so we appreciate that. Going out to the ballot in November for an extension of our capital list of projects, as you know. And I will just say I don't know where we would be as a region without that mechanism in place. It has made all the difference in the world as far as mobility improvements. Next slide. Not going to dig into this either, but we also have a legislative subcommittee of our board that gets very active during the state legislative session to dig into different issues that are of concern to us as a region. And there's always an opportunity, Mr. Mayor, if you wanted to serve on our legislative committee, it's open to anybody that wants to participate. They do meet every Monday at, I want to say 8:30 virtually with our lobbyist and identify what our needs are going to be long-term, but it's a good opportunity to collaborate with other elected officials to help us really structure what our regional legislative agenda is going to be. And I think I've got a couple other slides after this, but those were kind of the main things. You can maybe scroll down a little bit, Nate, to the last one, just some other priorities. I'm not going to dig into these as much, but just a lot of other stuff going on. Committees that we have, as I alluded to earlier, if the town wants to make appointments to various committees that we have, we're always looking for volunteers and appointees. So let us know when you're ready to move forward with some of these. So that's pretty much all I've got. Happy to answer any questions you may have. Happy to take back any major projects or issues of concern that you think we ought to know about. But I appreciate your time.
Yeah, we're currently working on our updated list. And I think we're going to have a special meeting on the 28th to go over it. Is that right?
I don't know that they really require too much more input from the board or approval from the board. That list has not changed.
Okay.
However, we are putting, defining the scope of work that is on that list
Yeah.
for the 2022 ballot questions, the
Good.
capital projects.
Okay.
The only other thing I think that everybody's been wanting to make sure of is that we did clarify Ute Pass Avenue
Yeah.
and not Ute Pass.
Thank you.
We have no major projects planned on Ute Pass.
I'm glad you mentioned that though, because that reminds me, I forgot to mention this. We're having a meeting about Ute Pass and US 24 actually, and what to do. We've coordinated with CDOT to set up a meeting for next week, and hopefully you're able to participate with Manitou Springs and Woodland Park and look at current conditions. What's the plan? If there are any funded plans to make improvements on US 24, and what's the need, quite frankly, as far as projections for traffic up and down 24. You live it every day, but we'd like to see what are some options that we can kind of prod CDOT a little bit. We've got a great relationship with CDOT as an organization, but what are some things we can do to make some safety improvements and other critical improvements along US 24? So it'd be good to engage on that next week. Good.
I just had a quick question about the fluidity between counties. Like I know that there's quite an active area on aging agency up in
Sure.
Teller County. Are they able to serve our area?
Well, if you're alluding to the Teller Senior Coalition, they're actually part of, if you will, as a partner, part of our AAA, the Area Agency on Aging, because we cover El Paso, Teller, and Park counties. So we go through a competitive process every year. We submit an RFP and then service providers submit proposals back. And I think we just approved this at our board meeting last month, funding for the Teller Senior Coalition, the one up in Park County as well. And I think a couple of other service providers within Teller County. So they're part of our network already. They should be, and they get funding from us.
Right. My question is, how fluid are their services across county lines?
You stumped me. I don't know how much they check that, but I can find out and get back in touch with you. It's a really good question.
Because I know they have a lot there and we
Yeah.
don't. So, but
Well,
we're really close.
Sure. I mean, you actually have part of, I think the town actually spills over into
Right.
Teller County. So maybe they get your foot in the door where you could actually put your seniors in the town could qualify for services up there. I will find out. That's a really great question.
Thank you.
Because I don't think that I hope they're not that rigid since they get funding from us and we're a regional body and we're emphasizing regionalism and crossing jurisdictional boundaries. We could have some influence to maybe push them to make sure they're providing service here as well. That's a great point.
Thanks.
Sure.
Any more questions? Okay, thank
Good.
you.
Thank you,
We'll
Mr.
see you in the
Mayor,
morning.
trustees. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item number 6, resolution 2022-08, opting out of the Colorado Family and Medical Leave Insurance Act. And we'll go with the staff report on that initially.
So perfect. This is the opt-out of the Family Leave Medical Act. Opting out as a town allows us to not be required to participate should you opt out with this resolution. And what was found is that many of the small towns ended up opting out just because of administratively, it became a burden. Also, financially, it could impose a burden on anybody that might not want to utilize that portion of their paycheck for this purpose. Opting out still allows the employees to opt in individually should they choose to. And if you all decide to opt out, employees will be receive notice and the procedure on how to opt in as individuals.
Okay, trustees, any questions, comments?
Is there any feedback from current town employees?
That
about
we
this?
sent out the notice, I hadn't heard anything. Nate, you?
If there are no more questions or comments, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the opt-out resolution.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the opt-out of the Colorado Family and Medical Leave Act, Resolution 2022-08. All in favor, say aye.
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 Did Nick vote on?
Aye.
Okay. I heard 5 ayes, so I won't ask for nays. Moving on to item number 7, Resolution 2022-09, naming appointments to PPACG, PPRTA, and PPRBD boards and committees. And I'll go ahead and let you guys, staff, take over on that.
I just filled in some blanks. I believe the only volunteer we had was Mayor Dixon for PPR TA or PPACG Board of Directors, and the PPRTA Board of Directors. Catherine, I believe you're still alternate on PPRTA Board of Directors, or I don't know, I guess that's a question if you want to be. I've tentatively filled in
Yeah, that's
your name there.
Yeah, I'm comfortable being an alternate.
And then Todd Dixon for PPRBD Advisory Board. I'm not sure about Tyler Stevens' name was all in this, and there's some long terms here, so I don't know specifically about those, but I should also note, as Mr. Gunning pointed out, there are several other boards or committees that I listed here in the memo that are also up for volunteers that he noted in his presentation were vacant from Green Mountain Falls as well. So there's quite a few pending vacancies besides what Todd and Catherine have stepped up to. Craig Gooding is a member of the PPRTA CAC as well. And Esh is, she is termed out as of now. So she is no longer an at-large in that.
And in this file, did we actually identify which ones have to be filled by like board members and which ones can be filled by general public?
It's all the boards have to be elected officials, but the advisory committees can be members of the community.
Okay.
Is Tyler Stevens attending those meetings?
I do not know.
Tyler was our mayor in 2018, so that's why he was probably on the list.
Correct, but there's this long term
Mhm.
to April 2027. I was pretty confused about, and I haven't reached out to that entity.
Yeah,
Where do you guys need me? There are positions that need to be filled by trustee members. I'll do what I can to help. I don't know if that's something that's being determined now or.
I didn't understand the question.
He said he's volunteering for a position if you want to stick him in there.
Oh, voluntold? Oh, okay.
It's difficult for others. I mean, is that something we're determining right now, or at another time? Because we can sit down and chat about that, about how many positions you need by board member.
I think we can certainly fill the ones that people are dedicated to fulfilling right now, and we'll fill in the blanks at subsequent meetings.
All right, so I guess what I'm asking is, where do you need me then? If nobody else is able to volunteer, I'll do what I can to fill as many of those spots as possible.
I think you may want to research some of the
Yeah.
committees and the time commitments and all that. We don't necessarily have to decide it all right now. So like I said, there's all these that are on the memo in front of us right here are not even on the resolution that has been used in the last couple of years to actually fill those positions. So I think all of these could probably use some attention. But again, I would highly suggest only volunteering for what you're interested in, because some of these meetings are very time consuming and technical and yeah, very, very detail oriented on some of the stuff that comes before them.
The big ones, right? The big ones for the purpose of tonight are really the PPACG, the PPRTA, and of course the alternate on there, and probably the PPRBD alphabet soup.
It's pretty accurate with the except in terms of who has volunteered to this point, except for the Tyler Stevens situation.
Okay, and that,
We could probably approve that pending clarification of that role or removal of his name from this.
He did continue to serve when he was no longer on the board.
okay.
I don't know how that worked. I guess maybe he didn't have to be a board member, but
So
but I don't know what the current status
for
is.
the purposes of tonight, we can leave it as is and circle back around with Mr. Stevens.
And as far as you know, all the meetings are during the day.
By and large.
Okay.
Okay, if there's no more comments or questions, I'll entertain a motion on this. Approve resolution.
That's too small. I move to approve resolution 2022-09 with no amendments.
No amendments. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. We approve resolution 2022-09 with no amendments. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, moving on to item number 8, our intergovernmental agreement with Fifth Amendment IGA regarding Pikes Peak Rural Transportation Authority.
So this is just updated intergovernmental agreement. And basically here is the explanation of what the changes are. Language needed for the extension of the 0.55% capital project sales tax. And a lot of language, including the town of Calhan, which was recently added to the PPRTA membership. That's the bulk of the changes.
Trustees, any questions, comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion on this one.
I move that we approve the amended IGA regarding Pikes Peak Rural Transportation Authority.
I'll second.
I second.
Too late.
Too late. It's been moved and seconded. We approve the intergovernmental agreement, the fifth amended IGA regarding Pikes Peak Rural Transportation Authority. All those in favor say aye.
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 Moving on to item number 9, the termination letter for interstate parking.
You have in your packet a prepared letter to terminate the contract with the between the town and Interstate Parking, who managed our pilot program last year. Do you have any questions or modifications to this letter or?
Again, during our work session, we decided to remove, basically revisit a parking program with town at a later time and basically say town believes it is in the mutual interest of the parties to terminate this agreement. So it would be a move to approve the termination letter as modified. If there's no further, are there any further questions, comments from the trustees?
I do have a comment.
Okay.
At our June 1st work session, we had 11 residents and the Board of Trustees plus Nate there, and including the 11 emails that we received, that was 22 out of a population of 748 approximately, and all voted or expressed their desire to cancel the paid parking program. I still do not understand how it passed in the beginning if there are this many that are voting or expressing the need to get rid of it. So that is still a concern. Are we not hearing the voices of those that were in favor? I guess not. They don't want to step up and be heard.
I don't know that there was a formal survey of people who approved or disapproved of paid parking. What was done was a survey about managed parking. And the majority of the surveys indicated that people wanted parking managed. But paid parking was not, I don't believe it was part of that survey. So I think what we might have here is people who want parking managed, but they don't want paid parking. So it and alternatives, is something that have been discussed, but that's where the paid parking program came out of.
Okay. So it could have been a mistake on behalf of the board at that time.
A mistake as far as that wasn't the best solution. Yeah, I think it was a solution. And, this was a pilot, right? Because there were issues we were trying to address. And I don't know that how effective it was in addressing the issues that we were hoping to address with the paid parking. But the citizens did let us know that they had concerns about parking. And it wasn't about, paid parking wasn't really part of the discussion at that time.
Thank you, Catherine.
Yeah, I will say that originally I'm on record as saying I was okay with it. But looking back, no, it just didn't feel like the right fit. Didn't feel like, really, I don't think we've really got the appropriate infrastructure to even really implement it because our parking is just kind of scattered all over everywhere. If we had parking lots with an attendant, okay, it might have been a different story, but it just did not seem like it was a good fit for either party.
Thank you, Todd. I just want to make sure that all of our residents are aware that we do hear your voice, and we would like you to let us know how you feel on different issues. Thank you.
And I would ask for a clarification on the modification that is on the table.
Okay. What we did was the last sentence, the town believes it is in the mutual interest of the parties to terminate this agreement, period. So we strike all the last part.
Gotcha.
Any further discussion? Comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the letter with the stated amendment.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the termination letter with the interstate parking. All in favor, as amended, pardon me. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, moving on to item number 10. Recommendation from Parks, Rec and Trails Committee on the Goco grant application for Parks Master Plan.
Okay, wonderful. So this would actually be just a concept application. It is the first step in the process with Goco. Should you approve it, we did do a work session with the PRT on 5/25, May 25th, and looked at some sample Parks, Rec and Trails master plans that were done for other committees, the components of them, and kind of talked about what our additional support needs would be should you all approve this evening, such as being able to solicit letters of support for a Parks, Rec and Trails master plan grant application. This first step in the process is really to submit a concept to Goco, and then pending that submission, they would then invite applications. There are no match requirements for the town on either of these issues.
Trustees, any questions or comments?
Just as liaison, I would say that I think the PRT made sure that they were clear about what this grant was for and what kinds of things to expect from a master plan that weren't already addressed in the comprehensive plan.
The subset concept.
Mhm. More details, more resources. Yeah.
Trustees, any more questions, comments? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I will move that we approve this. I'm not sure exactly how to put this, the grant application,
Just the submission of the concept paper.
the submission of the concept paper. Thank you.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the submission of the concept paper for the Goco grant on the master plan. All in favor, say aye.
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 Item number 11, Another recommendation, Parks, Rec, and Trails Committee on Olathe and New Pass Triangle Garden work.
So just a little bit of background information on this. Members of the community had approached the PRT offering to adopt a park. This is a really great opportunity to do a pilot project with the citizen-driven Adopt a Park program. Was part of the discussion that occurred. We did look at what the cost requirements of this project would be. They are unbudgeted, but I feel as though we could probably find some funding to fund the request of that could be up to, what did we decide? Up to $400 as we were able to use some of the topsoil that is in the town inventory already. So it would end up being an ask of about $400 to support this project, to include a rain barrel to help water the area, as well as to purchase some pea gravel. This project is still pending public works in that they need to replace a culvert prior to this beginning, as well as install the railroad ties to act as a curb bumper around the area. They had intended to be able to begin working on this right about now, but we got hit with that storm and were able to get our hands on a lift. So we had to juggle a little bit of their time. Catherine, do you have anything to add to that, or any of the PRT members?
Just that the topsoil, I think we would need to, hate to look a gift horse in the mouth, but we would need to make sure that the topsoil that's available is suitable for the project. And the $200 cost for soil and pea gravel is a high estimate for the amount that will probably be needed.
Okay.
So I guess what I'm saying is that it won't cost more than that.
Okay.
Trustees, any further comments or questions? And if not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll jump right in. I move to approve the Triangle Garden proposal. I don't know why it's written like that with myself as the point of contact for the Chamber of Commerce. That is not, all that's not really necessary. I'm sure the Chamber of Commerce would be happy to take credit for this, but I don't know if that's what the folks that are donating their time, energy, and resources have in mind.
Yeah.
So I'd rather just approve the Triangle Garden proposal.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded that we approve the Triangle Park proposal. All those in favor say aye.
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 Moving on to item number 12, another recommendation, Parks, Rec, and Trails Committee, Friends of UPass Trail Maintenance Proposal for June 18.
Oh, we've got it. So again, at the PRT meeting on the 25th, the trails had talked about a trail maintenance day that could potentially occur prior to the maintenance agreement being executed by both parties. That agreement is, in my opinion, very close to being complete. It's just a matter of Mr. Blasey returning from his trip and having it reviewed by his team for anything else that might need to be adjusted on it to make sense. The idea here was that the trail maintenance on Tom's Trail still occur on the 15th, on June 18th as a work day, regardless of whether or not that agreement is in place. I believe that they have volunteer waivers that take care of their needs there to be able to do the work. The only really, I think, consideration is whether or not the town would incur any additional expense as a result of an additional workday that would be outside of the agreement if the agreement has not already occurred.
And some additional information, I did hear back from the folks looking at the trail. They said it needs to be done probably sooner than later, and that would help to accommodate the folks doing the fire mitigation work as well.
You mean before the 18th?
No, I mean, there was talk about waiting until after the mitigation was done, and they're saying, no, don't do that.
Maybe June 18th is not an issue, but I believe it's the first day of the Greenbox Arts Festival.
Yeah. It's a,
And
it's a,
I don't know, maybe you've already got volunteers lined up, but
yeah, it's basically already a pre-planned work day.
okay.
So
So they are prepared for the 18th?
what was the question?
Yes, they are prepared for the 18th.
Yes, that would, yes.
I'm kind of confused about this. So this is not part of the contract?
This will be outside of the contract.
Well,
I think this is a contingency plan, should the contract take a little bit longer. It's just that they are able to begin planning their workday if the maintenance agreement has not yet been signed by them.
Okay, and there's no liability issues for the town?
As long as they have their volunteer waivers sign waivers, I think we're okay.
yeah, I was going to actually recommend this be a zero cost option for us. So no additional cost.
Well, and no liabilities. That's-
Yeah.
I'd like that, like both of those things to be true.
And Nate, I see that Lamar Matthews has a hand raised on Zoom.
Yes, it's specified in the agenda that raised hands are for the public comment period.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
And now it's gone.
Okay, trustees, any further comments or questions? I'll take a stab at making the motion here. I move that we approve the trail maintenance on the Thomas Trail as a zero additional cost, and liabilities are covered by Friends of You Past Trails. Let me reword that. I move that we approve the maintenance on Thomas Trail as a zero additional cost, and that Friends of You Past Trails be responsible for any volunteer liabilities.
I'll second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded on the maintenance on Thomas Trail. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Moving on to item number 13, the intergovernmental agreement with El Paso Teller Opioid Region Treatment Council.
So this was a item that was tabled last meeting pending additional information. We did receive additional information inviting the town to participate at their first couple of meetings and offer to be on their voting board should any of you find that it's, after attending those meetings, that it's something that you would like to participate in. The abatement The intergovernmental agreement allows the region as a whole to collect those settlement funds over the course of the next 18 years. Allocations will be decided at a future meeting, in which you all will then have the opportunity to opt in or out of those allocations. Were there additional points on that that I've forgotten?
Trustees, any questions, comments? And
You know how often they meet?
I anticipate that probably while they're getting things kicked off, it'll be a little bit more frequent than it'll end up being, as far as, maintaining it. But I anticipate it'll likely be once every couple of weeks while they initiate things. I'll make sure to get you all of you the dates to those so that you're able to sit in.
if there's no additional questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the El Paso Teller Opioid Regional Abatement Council, IGA.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the El Paso Teller Opioid Regional Abatement Council agreement. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, so then we'd be moving on to item 15, the appointment of the planning commissioners.
And I apologize, the memo for this did not make it to the packet, so I'll bring it up on the screen here. So just a little bit of background on this. At the May 24th meeting, the Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend the appointment of two new planning commissioners, Lisa Bonwell and Rocco Blasi, along with Ann Esch as an alternate. As was discussed earlier as well, at the May 10th meeting, Lisa Bonwell and Ann Esch were up for appointment as well. But there was a motion to table that decision pending application by Rocco Blasi. So that's how the history of that appointment went.
Would any of the potential applicants care to share their experience with us on how it went? Process-wise and just maybe just kind of give us a general background.
Hi, I'm Lisa Bonwell, 10691 Illinois Avenue, and I have applied for a position to volunteer on the Planning Commission. And I'm not sure, Mayor Dixon, what you're meaning, how the process was.
Maybe just kind of quick, since we don't have your packet here, maybe just kind of quickly run through your background and your experience with the process.
Oh, okay. So I have not participated in the Planning Commission before. I am a retired internist, hospitalist physician for UC Health, and I've served on many boards on hospital boards, some in the community as well. I feel very comfortable participating in a board setting and interested in getting involved in the town, and that's why I applied. Questions or comments?
Questions? No? Do we have, thank you.
Yeah.
Do we have any of the other?
Ann is on here as well. Ann, would you like to comment?
Should I go ahead and say something?
Yes, please.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm very interested. I've participated in government since I was 25 years old on many different boards and so forth. I've represented Green Mountain Falls on the PPRTA and the PPACG for about 5 years. And by the way, I think I could be reappointed to the PPACG if I'm not term limited, if no one else wants to do it. I think all those connections have helped me. I'm good at collaborating with other people. I'm a lawyer. My family's owned property for 100 years in the town. And even though I'm old, I think I still can manage. And so I would be happy to serve in whatever capacity you choose. Thank you.
Thanks, Ann. We don't have the acting chair of the Planning Commission on, but Planning Commissioner Lamar Matthews is online if she would like to comment at all.
Yeah. I'd like to hear from someone on the planning commission, yeah.
Okay, Rocco's traveling right now, so he really can't speak up this evening, but he has previously served on the Planning Commission and is extremely experienced and very knowledgeable about the Planning Commission in Green Mountain Falls. At our Planning Commission meeting, we made the motion to recommend that Lisa Bonwell and Rocco Blasi serve as the new planning commissioners, along with Ann Esch as the alternate. That was motion made, carried, and was voted on unanimously. And that is still the commissioner's recommendation, the planning commission's recommendation to the BOT.
I see we have one other planning commissioner here. Would you like to add anything? Okay, thank you very much. Trustees, any further questions, comments? I will add to the public that we have identified some process improvements that I think we're going to be considering in the future, especially around appointments and whatnot. So yeah, there's some things we're thinking about. So if there's no further discussion, I'd entertain a motion.
I'd like to entertain an alternate action to the recommended action. And that would be to appoint Lisa, I'm sorry, Cromwell. I can barely read this. And Ann Esch as the commissioners and Rocco Blasi as the alternate.
We have a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We'll write this down. Sunday. It's been moved and seconded that we appoint Lisa Bonwell and Ann Esch as planning commissioners with Rocco Blasi as an alternate. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed?
I'm gonna say no, because that's against the recommendation of the commission themselves.
Yep. Understood.
I know, in agreement with, I think in the future, of course, that we're going to have to come up with a very set in stone procedure for applicants.
Yeah, I agree. There's some things that need to be addressed in the process.
I think there's going to have to be a date. You know, it's not a first come first serve, but like a date. We're going to have to revisit this, I believe, in the future. But it's nothing against anybody who put in their application for this position. It's you know, the committee itself is recommending certain applicants. Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with Sean Ives.
Okay, so we got 3 ayes and 2 nays, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Right.
Motion passes.
That's interesting.
Moving on to item number 16. our reports. We'll start off with any trustee reports. And Sean, Catherine,
Maybe next time.
maybe next time. Nick?
Negative. Okay.
And again, I'd like to reiterate that lake is being refilled. Hopefully and ready for the gazebo rental on the weekend. We will likely drain it again. And we'll see if they're going to be doing some of the other work associated with that project. Public Works is obviously out with the lift. Again, reiterate, we're probably delaying some of our road work until we can get some of the storm damage, get the rest of the storm damage cleaned up. Okay, any committee reports? Oh, hey, I better go back. Sorry. I tried to capture what we did as far as risk assessment. And trustees, if you could take a look at this and let me know by our next regular meeting if I've captured things correctly, or if you have additional items, then at some point we'll want to start moving into looking at prioritizations. Thanks for bringing that up, I forgot.
Just to clarify, this is, what am I looking at here?
Basically what we did on the wall over here. I tried to capture that on a piece of paper.
I still kind of need clarification.
Would you
please.
like for me to get with you later and try to walk you through it?
No, but I mean, does it have like what would you call it? Like a title?
Oh, this is basically a kind of a risk to town matrix. I call it severity and probability. I'm used to dealing with it in the industry I've come from. And it's basically a tool that once we start getting into prioritizations, you can kind of look at it and say, okay, well, maybe here's our higher risk items. They might want to go into a higher priority.
Okay, so this is a risk assessment.
Basically, yes.
Okay. And this doesn't include, certainly, it's not all inclusive of
Oh.
our priorities, right?
No,
Okay.
this is just basic looking. I like to try to use this as a tool to help build priorities.
Okay, with the understanding that they're not all here.
Yeah, they're not all.
Okay.
No.
Thanks.
Yeah, this is just trying to capture risks. So if you see something in the risk tool, then you might want to include it in prioritization.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it'll be helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Now we'll move on to committee reports.
Only one submitted. This was from David Douglas, the Fire Mitigation Advisory Committee Chair. Just important updates. The co-swap grant work has begun up on the Thomas Trail parcels. The east ones are the ones that Mile High Youth Corps is working on. I met with them last Friday and Monday, and seems like they've got a good crew working up there, and so we're going to be touching base with them and just monitoring progress and reporting statistics, and also talked about a little bit more of the logistics of volunteer efforts that will be needed to remove fuel. Most of that effort can be taken after the crews are out, so that there's not conflict between volunteers, not overlap, I should say, not conflict between the volunteer effort and the crews themselves. So once we have a better feel for how quickly they're moving through the acreage, then we can work more diligently to define volunteer timeframes and efforts. Some of the lighter weight slash can likely be removed in the more dense areas as early as this fall, perhaps, and then waiting until next spring to let some of the larger larger bowls that they cut out before moving them by hand. Other things, moving down a little bit, just as a related project, CUSP has also begun work this week on the west side of Thomas Trail, near to the area they mitigated over the last couple of years. So their goal is to do 19 acres of town-owned land this year as well. Some more points on this are the FMAC, I believe Mayor Dixon and David Douglas are going to be at the Greenbox Mayor's Forum on July 3rd, and that's at Sally Bush. And they're going to be discussing part of the presentation will be fire mitigation education effort. The committee is also developing plans to address those points you see up there, education, and helping with private property assessment resources, giving resources for homeowner remediation, and also helping town staff come up with a plan to mitigate some of the undeveloped right-of-way and schedule chippers and other efforts to get rid of fuel throughout town. And also they are planning on having a booth at Bronc Day, and in order to further disseminate fire mitigation education.
Okay, any other committee reports?
I guess I could comment on planning commission real quick. Right now, there's only till tonight, only the 3 members. So, but I have been gathering feedback on the final version of the land use code rewrite. I also applied formally for an extension on that grant and I haven't received the official notification yet, but had positive feedback from Greg Winkler, the DOLA representative. And so I anticipate that will be improved. So that will give us a little bit more breathing room, and that extension date would be December 31st of this year. So that'll just give us a little bit of extra cushion with the kind of the stress timeline we have coming up with so many things going on. So
That's good.
that's about it.
And the dates for any kind of public hearings, we set those
I
in
think
stone
the
yet?
timeline is kind of off. I'm not sure I'll have enough time to compile all the comments for meaningful discussion at next Tuesday's planning commission. We'll just have to play it by ear a little bit after this week.
Okay.
Wow, that's good.
And if there's no more committee reports, we'll move on into staff reports.
All right, we did not formally prepare you staff reports this meeting as we presented last meeting. But just a couple of quick updates. The regularly scheduled, what would be the regularly scheduled second meeting of this month will occur while a couple of you are at Colorado Municipal League. So just kudos to Todd for his successful application for a scholarship there to CML. Trustee Guthrie is also able to attend. It's kind of a big deal, you all taking the time out to be able to go and learn and be among your peers at this conference. I feel like you're going to find a lot of value in it. That leaves us with Avoid. Of course, we have a tentative meeting for next week if needed. But should that not come to fruition, I feel like we probably have items that will not be able to wait until the first meeting of next month. So wanted to check your availability for the 28th of June. It's still a Tuesday. However, it also is also the date of Planning Commission, which begins at 6:30 and unanticipated, hard to if we need that. So it's hard to anticipate whether or not that will occur now. It's not something that we have to set now. We can discuss it next week if we need to. Or if you already know that you're available or not available that week, certainly we can pick a date.
I'll pencil it in.
Okay. Other than that, I have nothing else. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item number 17, correspondence. We have correspondence items to,
No.
no, okay,
Sorry, I just leave that in by default, but I didn't actually have any.
okay.
Oh, I did have a correspondence and it's really important. I'm sorry. I was to remind you and the board, Mr. Mayor, that there is a space available for you all to march in the Bronx Day Parade, if you'd like to. And I'm told that also our state representative, Terry Carver, usually marches in it as well.
Okay, if there's nothing else, it is 8:20.